Hi guys, this is Walesa from LA Refurbish, and today's transformation was inspired by the dresser Enchanted from Anthropology. I have been waiting to find the right piece to recreate my own version of it. And I happened to find this Hepplewhite style dresser. To help me create these beautiful embellishments, I have partnered with Amy Howard at Home. I'm gonna be using their decorative molds with resin, so stick around for today's transformation. There is something about those curvy serpentine drawers that I absolutely love about Hepplewhite furniture. This dresser is in pretty good condition, aside from some scratches on the legs and chunks of veneer missing on the bottom skirts. As I mentioned to you in the beginning, we're gonna be making some molds out of resin, and those can be a perfect solution to cover it up some damage on pieces. So here I'm gonna start by removing the hardware and spraying some simple green degreaser to get all that grime that was especially stuck behind those beautiful handles. I mean, look at this. It's always disgusting and surprising how much grime comes out of pieces. One of the many things I have learned since I started working on furniture 5 years ago is that the lacquer that they use to protect the tops is tougher, harder to remove than any of the lacquer on the rest of the piece, and it makes sense. I mean, the tops usually get a little bit more of a beating. That is why I love using this carbide scraper to break through that first tough layer, and any of the remaining is gonna get sanded using my Surfprep sander and 120 grit sanding sheet. Now, I was not planning on sanding this entire piece down. However, when I started to sand, I realized that the finish was coming off so easily, and we know that I can paint over that if I want my new finish to last for a long time. So it looks like I'm gonna be sanding the entire piece. As some of the original wood started to pop through the old varnish that they use, I started noticing that there were differences between the woods. The wood veneer that they use on the front drawers and the top was definitely more of a red wood than the rest. In order to bring those red tones down and make my piece look more uniform, I'm gonna be using a two-step process wood bleach. For the bleaching process, you have solution A and B. You'll want to use different sponges and different containers to pour and apply each solution. And with my sponge, I'm gonna start applying solution A. If the wood that you're bleaching is a soft kind, you'll want to wait 5 minutes before applying solution B and 10 minutes for hardwoods. Good morning. So yesterday I applied 3 rounds of that 2-step solution wood bleach. I can still see that the veneer on the drawers and the top is more red. I think I'm gonna use a color wash to try to tide the entire piece a little more. Now I just did a 220 scuff sand, and I'm getting ready to do one final wipe down with clean slate before I do a clear primer and then a color wash. While my piece is drying, I'm going back inside and start making the molds. I'll be using the acrylic glacier resin bundle from Amy Howard at Home. You'll need 2 plastic cups to pour the resin and the hardener into, 3 tongue depressors, and the leaves and ferns in my flower garden decorative molds. It's super important that you wear some gloves, and just know that the resin has a smell. You can wear a mask if you want to, and if you're worried that the smell is gonna spread through the area that you're working at, then choose a spot that's well ventilated. I pour equal amounts of resin and hardener into each cup. Then I mix them together and set up my 3-minute timer. Alexa, set up a 3-minute timer. And that is how long you should be stirring those products together to make sure that they're completely mixed. As you can tell, I set up the molds on top of this general purpose brown masking paper. Something I would do differently is to use plastic instead, because a little bit of the resin seeped through the brown paper. The kitchen counters clean really easily, but just something to be aware of. Right here you can see me using the tongue depressors to help me make sure that the resin is going into every single nook and cranny. If you end up pouring a little too much resin and you have some overflow, not to worry, because at the end those tongue depressors are gonna come in handy and work like a planer. I just want to share how therapeutic making molds was. I turned on some Frank Sinatra in the background and started pouring. It was very relaxing. A couple of things that are important and helpful to know regarding the molds are that they dry clear. The second thing is that it's important that the back of them dry completely flat. This way, when you apply the glue on the back of them, they'll glue to your piece nice and even. Like I mentioned earlier, if there is overflow, use your tongue depressor like I'm using it right here to remove any extra, and look at it, they look way flatter and even. Lastly, you have 30 minutes after mixing the resin and the hardener to pour the resin mix into the molds before the resin starts getting a little too sticky. Since the resin takes between 6 to 9 hours to dry, I highly recommend letting them dry overnight. And before ending my day at the shop, I'm gonna be spraying 3 coats of this sanding sealer clear shellac from Sensor to make sure that none of those red tannins from the wood filter through my new color wash. This sanding sealer dries to the touch in about 30 minutes, but allow 1 hour between one coat and the next. For the color wash, I'm mixing the colors Java and Bauhaus Buff. Those 2 colors are from the One Step paint line from Amy Howard at Home. I just put enough of both colors so that I would have a nice neutral color. Remember to add 3 parts water to 1 part of this paint mix. The consistency of your color wash mix should be nice and runny like it is right here. The way I get really good results with this color wash technique is by applying it by sections and using a wet rag to wipe off the excess. Now let me tell you, here I completely forgot to get my wet rag ready, so I tried using a paper towel, and quickly I realized this is not gonna work. When applying your color wash, try to keep your brush strokes straight, and when you are wiping off the excess, do the same thing. Run the rag from one side to the next. If you stop in the middle, you'll be able to see when the color wash dries, so avoid doing that. Sometimes you can use what you already have on your rag to apply. Watch this. By the way, don't judge your piece after the first coat. The first coat of a color wash can always look a little scary. A second coat can really make a huge difference. And even after the second coat, if you wish to have even more color, you can go ahead and apply a third coat. This finish is pretty forgiving. I'm applying the second coat of the color wash to this drawer, and that's all I did, you guys. 2 coats. I still wanted to be able to see that wood underneath my wash. Earlier I showed you how I mix 50-50 of the hardener and the resin, but I also filled out some molds where I put a little more resin and less hardener to make them more pliable. Remember that my dresser has those serpentine curvy drawers, and a flat mold on the curvy areas is not gonna look normal. So that's why I needed some that were completely hard and some that were a little bit more pliable. Before you start releasing the flowers, I recommend 2 things. The first one is to wear gloves. Next time, I think I'm gonna try to use baby powder. Some of the resin residue can get stuck to your gloves and get them a little sticky. The second thing is to stretch out the silicone mold before removing the flowers. You're gonna see that if you stretch it, the flowers are gonna start just popping up. As soon as the flowers were released, they were painted using the same color wash mix I applied to the rest of the dresser. It took about an hour or so for my color wash to dry, and then I started laying down the molds using the inspiration piece as a guide. This part right here was pretty much playtime, rearranging, moving the flowers. I momentarily placed the handles to make sure that whatever pattern I followed gave enough space for the handles to be there and I wouldn't overlap them. Once I was happy with my layout, I grabbed some Titebond and started gluing the molds. What I love about this glue is that it sets really fast. So after pressing the mold onto the piece for 3 seconds, it had enough grip to be able to let go of the mold and forget about it and move on to the next. I applied 1 coat of top coat thinking it would give the wax more workability based on past experience using other brands, but having used vintage wood resin wax now, I can tell you that there's no need for top coat beforehand. It truly is super soft, so smooth. I'm quite impressed by the wax. The idea of applying a light color wax over a warmer tone is to add uniqueness and depth to my finish, and also to attract attention to the flowers. If you have thought or been considering making molds out of resin, hopefully watching this video encourages you to try to make your own design. I know the inspiration piece is a lot wider than the one that I'm doing here today, but I'm just loving that warm color versus the white wax contrast, and I think I'm gonna leave it like that. At the end, I'm gonna make it my own. In the words of Winston Churchill, beginning with audacity is a very great part of the art of painting. And I also love this other quote by Henry Ward Beecher that says, "Every artist dips his brush in his own soul and paints his own nature into his pictures." Even though we know this is not a picture, I think the same principle applies. Just make it your own and have fun. Go for it. We're almost to the finish line and I'm so excited for you to see the transformation. Let's look at the before, the inspiration piece, and here is our final look. As always, I would love to know your thoughts on today's transformation. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content.